oh, maybe a little more attractive. Well, you know what? It might be a novel. Great idea for this drama. Lincoln Lawyers. Killer Joe. Mud. Dallas Buyers Club. Magic Mike. True Detective. McConaughey. 20 months after I stepped out. I didn't know how long it would go. That's how long it went. All of a sudden, those offers came in. And I was off, and I grabbed a hold of all of them I could and did them and loved doing them. And yeah, would those have come if I'd have never stepped out? Not even gonna say maybe, no. No, they wouldn't have.
So interesting how success can become a prison. It goes back to that sort of marginal, slow.
Yeah.
And then you have to do something drastic to realign.
Yeah.
Turn down $14.5 million, which...
And trust me, my brothers were like most people, going, what is your major malfunction, little brother? You know? But I remembered how I felt that night when it came to me and it settled and it came up and I made the covenant and I prayed and swore on it with Camilla, and we said, the decision's made. No matter how long this goes, we're not going to go back on the decision. So a lot of these stories, I think, come out about endurance in a way. The Australian story, this story, are two that remind me of, like, I could have pulled the parachute sensibly at any time. After the first 3 months in Australia, if I tell you the details of that, you'd be like, dude, why didn't you come home? After a year out of the business, maybe. And my dad used to tell me, I haven't even heard your name in 4 months. Shit. Why go start a new job? Just go back. Those jobs are waiting for you. The rom-com jobs you were doing, they're waiting.
The through line for me as well is just, in these moments, you knew who you were and were not, which a lot of people don't. And you have to kind of know who you are and are not in order to turn things down or to accept things that are for you, right?
I'm gonna go one step previous to that. I don't know if I could say I knew who I was. An easier place for us all to begin, and I think where it's more true for me, is that these were times when I go, I knew who I was not. And I don't know I kind of know what I want to do. Roles that can challenge the vitality of my life, you know, we could say we call those a drama. But it wasn't like I had the script written. This is the one I want to do and no one let me do it. You know what I mean? So I said no to that. When Australia, I knew that I couldn't be the guy who goes, I'm out of here, man. Because
with not having the branch to swing to perfectly.
I hope so. My wife's out there. If you're seeing this, she's probably like, he needs to work on his relationship with uncertainty.
At least in a professional context. I mean, most people will end up stuck because they just wait for 100% certainty about the escape plan or the next.
Well, maybe that's because every role I've ever done, I went into it that this is going to be great. And not all of them were great. So I've been a part of things that had the best laid plans and turned out to be like, oh shit, that's all we do with that? I've been part of things that had the best laid plans and turned out to be like, damn, all right. I've been a part of things that were under-financed and didn't seem to have the foundation before we turned them into something. Dallas Buyers Club, $4.9 million in 25 days. Shot that movie. The quality on the screen for that much money. Jean-Marc, director, we turned it into that. We went into it, but even that's another fun story. That was never real. we just said, the producers and myself, once John Mark came on, the director, and the producers and I, we got in a room and said, we got to just say we're doing this in October. And so we left out there and started telling them, yeah, doing it in October. There wasn't no money. My agent was like, you keep saying you're doing it in October. You're not doing it in October. I was like, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Dude, there's no money. You're not buying this. Yes, you are. Just kept saying it. Other scripts were coming in. It was like, you read this? When's it going? October. I'm not. Why read it? I'm not doing it. I'm doing Dallas Buyers Club. Dude, you're not doing Dallas Buyers Club. There's no time. There's not a date set. There's no movie. Would you please read something for that time slot? No, because we're doing Dallas Buyers Club.
Why were you so...
We just kind of, I'm not going to, what's the word? We didn't manifest it. We just didn't flinch.
Don't have
We didn't
access.
stutter, and we were all in alliance and saying the same thing. So all of a sudden, people started believing.
Has that proven to be really important? To believe what you say and to say it with conviction? Because it goes back to the phone call with your father.
Yeah.
You didn't flinch. Something seems to happen when you don't flinch.
Yeah, I mean, it's different than fake it till you make it. You know, intent is momentous. Amen on that. Yeah.
Intent is momentous.
Yeah. There's a woman here on that same thing, and I think it's where I write that in response, pushing off of where I think sort of a woke cancel culture overcompensated, where we, bam, hammered you for the word and didn't give the people to go, wait, do you understand my intent?
Intent is such a lost.
Especially with people who are ignorant and didn't know better. All right, here, but I wish more, not, I don't want more crimes, but I wish more of the crimes were about of ignorance. Because it's the ones, it's the bad agents that are going, oh, I know. Good for me, and I'm doing the duty. Well, that son of a bitch, I'm sorry, maybe we do need to go in an alley and work it out, but the ones I didn't know. That person needs some amnesty. Go, well, okay. Or, given the chance to talk about it, when we've forgotten how to say, sorry, dude, I didn't. That's what I mean. I did not know that's how you. I didn't mean for it to land on you. Like that's not how I meant it. Have we forgotten to do that? And aren't we getting tooled by the lawyers in the world to say, just litigate, dude? So, whoa, what happened to? Hey, man, my bad. Stuck my foot in my mouth, man. I bogeyed. Sorry. Now, if I come back and do it to you next week and the next week after, bullshit on me. Repeat offender. And you can forgive me, but don't trust me. I need some reparations. I got some work. I need some rehab. All right? But my first job on talking about forgiveness, in the words intent, my first job, if I've done you wrong and I've come asking for forgiveness, you've opened, if you're gonna forgive me, you've opened it up. And if you forgive me, and you believe that I mean, I'm truly sorry, do my best not to.
Yeah, I don't know.
You believe that, and you forgive me. First order of business is for me to change the behavior that I have so I don't have to come say sorry to you again. That I think we miss sometimes. Sometimes we'll go, I'm sorry, forgive me. Oh, cool, we're even. All right, back to it. And all of a sudden you're like, you did it again. Dude, have a little I thought you were going to course correct. You know, I've got to course correct. The offenders, for the first order of business, for the offender to go, I'm going to do what I can not to have to say I'm sorry to you.
I think there's a more obvious incentive to misunderstand people now, especially when there's likes and follows and retweets
Right.
and play. Misunderstanding someone, there's huge incentive in that, and I think maybe that's created a culture of that being the default, is to trying to misunderstand you.
Trying to misunderstand.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because there's an incentive. I think
Yeah.
all human behavior can be tracked to
All
incentives.
right, and that's not the resistance we're talking about.
No.
You know, that's, come on. Trying to misunderstand people. A real want and need. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm asking this out to the world and myself. Trying to misunderstand, to be controversial, what, to be,
It makes me significant.
Right, because you own something and yeah. So you trumped my gesture.
Yes. What about
Yeah.
it proves, I'm almost piggybacking. You talked about structure. I'm pushing off your...
Right. Dude, we've got to compare before we contrast. Double down on somebody's affirmation. Make the point in about make the positives plural and the singulars negative. Then you can block evil and the negatives path to prophecy. If we can double down, I'm not saying be foolish and say there's no negative in the world, there's no pain, there's no evil. No, let's admit it's all out there and then choose to go. I'm going to talk about bad shit in my past in the past tense, because that's going to block its path to prophecy. And the positive things that are working, the truths in my past, I'm going to talk about them in the present and the future tense, because we're going to keep that ball going. That's going to be a verb. Let's make those a verb.
What season of life are you in now, Matthew?
Season of life. Well, the last 8 years, I've really come to the fall. I grew up, I was a summer guy. No shirt, no shoes, bright lights, expert, it's all good, everything. Don't bitch about no shoes, because somebody out there with no feet. I've come to like fall because I think I'm interested in so many things that my hunch is to not take on more campfires, but to keep putting logs on the fires that I've built. And to do that, the clouds that come with fall just nip ambition in the bud just a little bit. They put a little bit of a roof. I'm not as big of a fan of the 30-foot vault ceiling right now. I like that 10-footer, that 8-footer. I feel ambitious looking laterally instead of the four-dimensionally. I'm looking for the dreams and the poems and the prayers to become the reality. And I like a little bit of shade.
Matthew, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they're going to be leaving it for. And the question that has been left for you is, what is your greatest weakness? What is your greatest strength?
Well, let me talk on this one, because a lot of times they seem to be the same damn thing. A lot of times people are like, dude, your greatest asset is risk. And I'm like, I think that's what I got to work on more. I think I could be taking a lot more risk.
You think you need to be taking a lot more risks?
Yeah.
That'll surprise a lot of people. Give me the context there and the color.
I'm successful. Got a home. It's got a gate. I got a security guard. I got 3 kids. I got a wife. Secure this. Keep that log on those fires going. That's the main thing, man. You do that. There's nothing better you can do. Why not, man? You can do that. You still need to engage. What are you going to become, a live-in father? No. Kids need to see you go to work. Need to come with you go to work. Need to see you and your mom going places without them. Engage in the world. Go find out some new things. Learn some new things. Whether that's the physical frontier or the mental frontier. Take more risk there to learn. As Mark Waters, director of Ghost Girlfriend's Past, told me one time, oh, McConaughey, you're never wrong. I was like, thank you. He goes, but there's more than one way to be right. One of my greatest assets is that when I am certain on something, I can commit to it. It can be an engine and a momentum to take me a long way. At the same time, I can leave unnecessary shrapnel with people I care about from my own certainty. Because I'm so committed and obsessed with this truth that I've crossed that I can block out an alternative approach to it. Because I don't have the confidence to go, oh yeah, let me see that. Because I still think, oh, but if I see that, I'm going to lose some of this. And I'm still working on that.
It was so beautiful to read poems and prayers It was surprising and beautiful at the same time. And I said to you before we started recording, it's one of the first times that I felt like I went somewhere else in a while. And it's funny because it was 3 or 4 days ago that I read the first couple of poems, and then I went back a couple of days later. And I think in part because things had changed in my life in those couple of days, the meaning of the poems were different. The meanings of the prayers seemed to be entirely different. You also have this incredible book, which has been one of those smash hit bestsellers of the last decade, Green Lights. And I know that one of your good friends, Bill McRaven, Admiral Bill McRaven.
I always make you call him Bill, but I always go, Admiral? Yeah, Bill McRaven.
And he was somewhat part of the inspiration, or he inspired, or was a catalyst moment, you seeing him speak?
It's a friendship that he and I have started to build, and is at a time when I was seeking out male mentors.
After your dad had passed?
Well, this is more in the last 5 years. 6 years, 7 years. I think I wrote that 4 years ago, something like that. And he always took my call, always took time with me, always, just without judgment, shared great wisdom with me. And without even knowing he shared it, I think I've just, if you ever get the chance to speak with him and spend time, he's really got it going on. He's really got a wonderful perspective.
What you were seeking guidance from him about?
No, the main thing I would keep private. But then it was also, we talked about, fatherhood, husbandry, he's got a great sense of humor, a lot of that stuff too. And how, making plans and for seasons of our life, and how much to rely on those, and how much are they just like, no, that's just an old parable, man. It doesn't really go like that. You know what I mean? And I'd give details, but I feel like I might be speaking out of school if I did.
Actually, we reached out to Bill McRaven.
Oh, you did?
And he wrote this wonderful letter for you. He said, "Dear Matthew, I remember clearly the first time we met. I'd been told that Matthew McConaughey was going to be in the audience at my talk. I'd long been a fan of your movies, but candidly, I wondered more about the man than the movie star. The man I met that day, the person I've come to know over the past 10 years, has exceeded all my expectations. You are as genuine as any person I know. There are no airs about you. There is no pretense. There is no Hollywood ego. There is just McConaughey. You treat everyone with respect. I've watched you with your league of fans, and never once have you failed to shake a hand, give a hug, take a picture, and thank them for their kindness. I've watched you on the sidelines with your beloved Lockhorns. When you are there, the entire burnt orange nation feels better than the game. In victory, your enthusiasm is infectious. In defeat, you are gracious and respectful, representing all that is good about the university and about Texas. I've watched you give back to your school, teaching the next generation of actors, writers, and poets. I've seen your work as the Minister of Culture, bringing fun and a Texas flair to everything you touch. I've watched you after the tragedy in Uvalde. It tore your heart out, and while others stood on the sidelines wondering how to deal with those unspeakable horrors, you headed straight to Washington. Few people I know could have brought both Democrats and Republicans together to make a difference, but you did. And then you stood in front of the entire nation and pleaded for sanity. Through your compassion, your determination, and your love, you have truly made a difference in so many lives. I have watched you with Camilla and your children. You're as fine a father and a husband as any man I know. Every child should be as lucky as your kids. I know your mother is exceedingly proud of the man you have become. Finally, I want to thank you for your friendship, your unwavering support, and for making my hometown of Austin some place special to live. Take care. Bill McRaven."
Wow. Thank you, Bill. Ah, that's something else. I did speak to him before I went to DC. Thank you. And just the wisdom with the context, setting. Do you see? Politics. but also in that being aware and understanding those things. Go your line, man. Go your line. And that's beautiful to hear. You know, I did not know that he thought all those things about me. That makes me feel good. I look forward to giving him a hug over our next cup of coffee or sip of tequila, whatever it is. Good man. Good man, Bill McCraven. Thank you.
And everything he says in that letter is what I've had reflected to me by everybody you've met and known. We've got some mutual contacts, and those words ring true. And this is why I think you're a great role model for me, but also for young men like me who are aspiring to figure out all this stuff with all the modern temptations and, you know, different paths we can pursue and all the options, more options than ever, and a less clear clarity on why we should pursue resistance and family and faith and all the things described in this letter of the empathy, the grace and the kindness and the respect of others. But you stand forth as an example for why all those things are the most important things. And thank you for that, Matthew. Thank you for being a role model to me and so many young men like me, and so many people, not just men like me. And thank you for writing a brilliant book, Poems and Prayers, which everybody can go and get now. And just like me, when I read it, it might just take you to somewhere else. Somewhere else you might rather be, and somewhere else you need to go. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Important principle in all of exercise science is to tell yourself, okay, I want bigger biceps, and then focus on that. And also, every real working set should be challenging.
Is there a perfect amount of repetitions to do?
There is, it's a trade secret, but it's
How long will it take me to lose the muscles that I've gained if I don't go back to the gym?
after about 2 weeks of not lifting, you start to lose muscle. But most people think, oh my God, another 8 months just to get back to where I started. But when you gain an initial amount of muscle, it never goes back to the same size as when you started. It's just always going to be bigger.
And then I've got a couple hours a week. I just want to get a bit leaner and I want to gain some muscle.
Okay, the first thing we do is
Dr. Michael, are there any supplements you suggest I take?
whey protein, casein protein.
What else steroids?
Jesus Christ, I'm really going to say this. I was recently on like a boatload of steroids. There are a few downsides.
What are the downsides? I know what he's talking about.
They're unspeakable. You really want to know?
This is a sentence I never thought I'd say in my life. We've just hit 7 million subscribers on YouTube, and I want to say a huge thank you to all of you that show up here every Monday and Thursday to watch our conversations. From the bottom of my heart, but also on behalf of my team, who you don't always get to meet. There's almost 50 people now behind the Diary of a CEO that worked to put this together. So from all of us, thank you so much. We did a raffle last month, and we gave away prizes for people that subscribed to the show up until 7 million subscribers. And you guys loved that raffle so much that we're going to continue it. So every single month, we're giving away money can't buy prizes, including meetings with me, invites to our events, and £1,000 gift vouchers to anyone that subscribes to the Diary of a CEO. There's now more than 7 million of you. So if you make the decision to subscribe today, you could be one of those lucky people. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's get to the conversation. Dr. Michael, what is the mission that you find yourself on in this phase of your life?
For those who would like to get everyone who would like in as good of shape as possible with as minimum of a time investment, injury probability, and inconvenience in general as possible, and the highest likelihood of best results, while trying to completely excise doing anything that is pointless, and also, I'm going to say this politely, telling people things that aren't true. We're trying to get as many people fit, leaner, more muscular, more flexible, healthier, etc., as humanly possible, to the extent that they are interested in that sort of thing. Because not everyone's into fitness, I understand that. I mean, I think I look kind of, freaky, and it scares certain people, and so I have a lot of time for that. But if you want to get fit, we're trying our best.
What are the big myths that end up standing in the way of most people when they hear this conversation now? What are the most frequent rebuttals that you'll get when you say that someone can get in shape and be lean with limited time?
Two super common ones are, I don't have the time to work out, and into that time to work out is included I don't have regular gym access, or I technically do, but I'd have to drive to the gym. I just don't have the time or the bandwidth, or I don't have the scheduling positioning in my life to do this sort of thing. And baked into that is the assumption that getting much healthier and much leaner and much more muscular takes like an inordinate amount of time. What are the most common questions I get out in the real world when people happen to look in my general direction? Because usually people just kind of go, what the hell's wrong with that guy's head? But one of the most common questions I get is, how many hours a day do you work out? Or how many days a week do you work out? And every single person is expecting an answer that is kind of like asking the tallest basketball player you've ever met how tall they are. You want an answer that's like 2.5 meters. You want something meaty. And if they tell you like, well, I'm 1.90 m, you're kind of like, oh, isn't that cool? And every time I tell them how much I work out, which is really like, at my real, like, trying to be as good as bodybuilding as possible, it is really 8 hours a week. And this is to do this in the same thing for people just trying to be fit and healthy, etc. We're talking about a sum total of 1 hour per week, split into 2 or 3 20-ish minute sessions, something we'll be trying later on, is such a huge stimulus and can radically transform your body, especially if you have attention to nutrition. And that's the second thing that's a big dogma, big myth, is people have ideas about what comes into nutrition, and nutrition for being more lean, more muscular, and healthier. They have all these kind of a constellation of ideas. Economist and philosopher Thomas Sowell calls them notions. So if you have the hierarchy of understanding, you have theory at the top, which is like gravitation, evolution, things super, super confirmed. Just beneath that, you have model, like the standard model in physics is not quite good enough, support to be a theory, but it's a very well understood space with a few mysteries. Under that, you have a hypothesis, which is, you have a real good idea formally phrased. And underneath that, you have a notion. And a notion is just things people say, and people are like, and no one even asks or answers about, is this really true? And so when you talk to people about nutrition, or they talk to you about why they're not in such great shape, another thing I get is, when you're pretty jacked and lean and you sit next to someone on a plane, they treat you almost like a religious figure, like a priest or an imam, and they're like, apologize. They're like, oh, you look like you're in good shape. I just haven't been to the gym. And I'm like, I love you as a human being,
Really?
no matter what, all the time.
Really?
All the time.
They apologize for the state they're in.
More or less, yeah. Well, they'll see me eat a protein bar and they're getting like the fruit on the plane, and they're like, that's bad for me, huh? And I'm like, no, it's actually quite fine. And I was a little bit confused. So all these ideas people have about nutrition, organic, artificial sweeteners are bad, gluten-free, GMOs, you have meticulously well-prepared meals. There is a ton of food that's huge laundry list of foods unhealthy and bad for you, makes you fat. There are other foods that are a little bit more nuanced and difficult to find that are super health foods and will radically transform you. I can go on for hours about these myths, but people come in with these myths as notions, as things they believe that they're like, this is how it is, right? And when you tell them, like, actually, that's not true. A lot of them are like, no way, because maybe that's the first time they've heard about it. So you tell people, working out doesn't have to last forever. If you do it intelligently, which is what we specialize at RP about teaching people how to do and demonstrating digital products, you can get into really, really good shape with not so much time investment. It's not so difficult. It's difficult in the moment as far as you got to try hard, but an hour of trying hard a week is not the end of the world. And then a nutritional front, they come in and they think it takes all these crazy special things. Like, people watch me eat regular food and they'll be like, you eat that? I'm like, yes. Like, but I thought that, but you eat super special food. I was like, that's never been true. But people come in with their stack of ideas, and there's just dozens and dozens of myths on both ends.
We'll go through all of those myths, but my last question before we get into it is, why does it matter to be in good shape? And this is, I'm asking you here to really draw on some of the case studies that you've probably been exposed to, where people have turned their lives around. What is the net benefit of someone who's listening right now, who's maybe heard about fitness stuff before and has heard from personal trainers, bodybuilders, and whoever else, but for whatever reason they just haven't been able to get up off the sofa and get into action?
It's difficult.
Why should they? Why should they care?
I love that question. The first thing I'll say is maybe not a surprise to many of the people that know me. Politically, I'm like super pro freedom, free of all kinds of inclusion. And that means to me also that if someone doesn't want to pursue fitness, as a human being, you have the same love and respect, at least from me, that anyone who's fit would have. And so as far as like, it'll just make you a better person and you're gotta get fit, people will see people that are obese and they're like lazy and how do they live with themselves? I don't ever think things like that. Not because I'm a good person, I'm not a good person at all, but what fitness won't give you is it won't elevate your status as a better person in some way. However, the other benefits of fitness, we could have a 10-hour podcast where I just go through them one at a time, and we would never get through all of them. I'll give you a couple of samplings, kind of the big hitters. One is health, straight up. So if you reduce your body fat substantially and you increase your muscularity substantially, and you adopt a lifestyle of moderate to moderately high physical activity quite regularly, this is about as close in real life as we have so far to a panacea, a cure-all. It isn't cure-all, but the degree of preventative, you won't get really sick very soon. In fact, that is just radical. I, just coming off of them, but if it's okay to say, I was recently on like a boatload of steroids, like the worst ones. Got blood work right in the middle of that. Because I was very lean and very physically active and very muscular, my blood work's stellar. Just being leaner and more muscular and more active just cleans your blood work up like crazy and makes your long-term, it increases your longevity considerably, but it does something I think is pretty close to equally important. It increases the kind of time you're having in your life while you're alive. It makes it way better. It reduces the morbidity. And so, because you can be around a long time living in an assisted care facility, like on machines to keep you, you're alive, sure, but there's something missing there. But if you have more muscle, less fat, and more physical activity, you ever see like an 80-year-old that's like cardio walking down the street, and you're like, my man, it'll give you that. So that's a big deal. So health. It'll give you, usually people experience a perception of wellness that's psychological. They just feel better. They feel cleaner. They feel more energy. The cognitive benefits of health and fitness are now being addressed seriously in the literature, and they have been for a little while, but it's kind of swelling. It's unequivocally true now to say that regularly engaging in fitness makes you literally smarter, just straight up. And it conserves your brain's cognitive health for decades into the future as you do it consistently, all the way across.
What is your background in terms of your academic qualifications and experiences that you've had that feed into everything that you know?
This sounds so pretentious, I can't believe I'm using this nomenclature, but I did my undergraduate work at the University of Michigan, where I met my fellow co-founder of RP, Nick Shaw. And that was in kinesiology, specifically a subset of something called movement science. I then went on to do a master's in technically strength and conditioning, but exercise science at Appalachian State University. Then I went for 1 year to go work in New York City with Nick as a personal trainer. At the end of that process, I realized that for my own personal vibe, I just didn't know enough. And I wanted to know more. And so I got accepted to a PhD program at East Tennessee State University under the great Mike Stone, who's probably one of the most well-published sports scientists of all time. Maybe it's definitely a conversation for the greatest American sports scientist of all time. And I went to that PhD program And that was in sport physiology. And the best way we had of summarizing what it is we were learning is the thing we're learning best here is how to take good athletes and make them better. And so I did 3 years of that. It sounds like a prison time. I did 3 years in ETSU, and that was the conclusion. As a terminal degree, I got a PhD in sport physiology. And then I spent, 10 years in various professorships teaching and doing some research and all this other stuff. I'm no longer a college professor, mostly because, like, there's only so many things you could do at the same time. Well, it's kind of like this YouTube thing is getting kind of insane, so I'm going to pivot to that. But I'm still actively involved in research. Our company funds research. I still look at manuscripts. I still co-author, so I'm still involved in that capacity as well.
So I want to start with the start. If someone's listening to this right now and they have walked into this is your practice, this is your hypertrophy practice, let's say, this table, and they sit there and they say, I would like to gain more lean muscle mass and I'd like to lose some weight. I live a busy life. Where do we start? What's step one? And I'm actually going to hazard a guess at step one to see if I'm correct. But for me, step one is quite psychological, because it's all well and good me having the tactics and strategies and the information. But if I don't have the motivation, none of it's going to matter anyway. So is step one psychological in some way?
Absolutely. My God, you should just be taking my job at this point.
No, but okay, I thought so. I thought that was... So what would you do for me to get me in the right psychological mindset?
I would even take a step back before that.
Okay.
The first thing we do is called a needs analysis in formal sports science. A needs analysis is, what do you want specifically? Do you want bigger arms? How much muscle are you trying to gain? It's a very different conversation if someone weighs 150 pounds and they're like, I want to be 155 but leaner, versus I weigh 150 pounds and I want to be 200 ripped. Different timelines, different approaches, different trade-offs.
Okay, give me the typical answer to that question.
Most people just open-ended, to be completely honest. They're like, I just want to get much leaner. Some of them will say, I also want to put on a lot of muscle. The muscle thing is, a lot of times with females, they just want the leaner part, but they understand in many cases that if they just jettison their muscle entirely, they'd end up looking more sick than healthy. But a lot of the males, leaner is important, but also getting super jacked is important. But how jacked and how lean, that's the conversation. Is if they come in with totally open-ended concerns, it's kind of like walking into a car dealership and being like, I want a car. Like, you're going to have to be a little bit, we'll sell you whatever. But you're going to have to tell me a little bit more about what your use cases are, about what your budget is. So that's another big thing in a needs analysis is, how much time can you give to this? Because if someone says, I want to eventually be a professional bodybuilder, and I've got nothing but time in my week to do the thing, they're getting a very different plan than someone that's like, I just want to be able to see my man down there again and just not die soon. And I have 2 hours a week to give you. Very different plan.
So I've got, let's say, I've got a couple of hours a week, so 2-3 hours a week that I could probably spare, maybe 4. And I just want to get a bit leaner and I want to gain some muscle.
Yeah. I also ask, what have you been doing so far? Tell me about your approach to fitness. And the answer could be, I don't have one. I've never tried to do anything. Once we get a lot of that information, I don't want to say the plan writes itself, but the sort of almost. Now we really, really, really have all the details to fill in the blanks.
And then from there, once you've done that sort of needs analysis and you've understood the investment that they're willing to make, you understand what their goals are, you understand their current approach to fitness, what becomes step 2? So if, again, I'm trying to embody the viewer here who's trying to change their life.
Yeah.
Get going for...
Step 2, oftentimes, just to keep it school, we definitely do nutrition, if you'd like, so please cue me in for that, but I'll just use training as a quick example here. A big one is, do you go to a gym? Can you make it to a gym? Or are you going to be training at home? Because training at home is a bit of a different world. You can get amazing results at home, but we need to make sure you have the right equipment. And it's super minimal. 2 20-pound dumbbells. I like that you're looking over at the dumbbells. Like,
are those 20 kg dumbbells?
They're 20-pound dumbbells.
Is that what I need at home?
For many people, 20, like adult males, quite spry like yourself, 20-pound dumbbells at home will give you phenomenal overall result. Yeah. What is that, 9 kgs or something? Oh, here we go. Your assistants are quite strong, by the way. Do you fight crime in your spare time?
Okay, so these are 20-pound dumbbells.
You're just showing off now.
But these are what I need at home to do a workout.
Yeah, somewhere between 10 and 20 pounds. 10 for smaller, lighter females, 20 for larger, more strong males. Somewhere between that, 2 of those dumbbells at home and a little bit of floor space can be the beginning of an absolutely revolutionary workout program.
Really?
Yeah.
So give me the starting position and the end position that I could get to just with these dumbbells at home.
If you properly control your diet and you haven't really lifted weights before, and you're, let's say, 30, 40, 50 years old, in a 6-month time span, we can reliably get you to gain 5 to 10 pounds of muscle, which if you go to the store, what is that like? 2 to 5 kilos of muscle. You ever buy 2 to 5 kilos of meat at the store? That's a lot of meat. That's going on your body. And we can reliably get you to lose, 5 to 7.5 kilos of fat in a 6-month time frame just by being intelligent about your diet and doing 2 workouts per week at home with your dumbbells, and the workouts each take roughly 20 minutes.
So that's 40 minutes a week.
Oh yeah. Now that's if you're unaccustomed and unadjusted. If you have already, and that's why those intake questions are important. Because if you're like, look, I go to the gym 6 times a week, I spend 2 hours at the gym, like, the dumbbells can keep you in pretty good shape, but they're not going to elevate your shape very likely. At the very least, it'll be highly inefficient and incredibly discomforting for what you'd have to do with such dumbbells.
So what is step 3 then? So the equipment part figured out, and I guess the complex element of that is some people have anxiety as it relates to going to the gym. I've got a lot of friends that, because they're so inexperienced with weightlifting or the machines, they feel embarrassed to go to the gym. So at least that's what they tell me. Now I don't know whether they're BSing themselves, but they tell me that they have gym anxiety.
Yes.
You know, you walk, and I can relate. You walk into a gym, especially if I go to like a bodybuilding gym, and I do look around and go, okay, everyone here knows what they're doing more than I do.
Ooh, that's already wrong, but we'll get to that in a bit.
And are they looking at me? Do they know that I don't know how this machine works? And if I don't know how a machine works and there's nothing, no label to tell me, sometimes I just avoid the machine. If I'm in like a bodybuilding gym, because I go, I don't know how to do my wrist muscles.
Yeah. I just look like a doof and everyone's making fun of me in their
That's kind of
heads.
what I think sometimes. If I go to like a really elite gym, so.
Yeah. So first of all, I think people's gym anxiety is absolutely a real thing. I can speak to that at length. The next step would be to say, hey, listen, based on all the information we've collected on your limitations, desires, abilities, we've cultivated a plan for you. The diet plan, and just sticking to the muscle growth stuff. Here's your plan for your training. And we actually have an app for this sort of thing, where we would say, okay, here's how you type in all your stuff in the app. The app will create a plan for you, and it'll tell you, here's what to do for warming up. Here's, you pick a weight, it tells you how to pick your weights, and then it programs the rest of your 2 months of training for you. You fill in the how do I feel, how am I recovering? It'll take care of everything else. And if you ever get confused, you click on the exercise and it opens up a video with an audio demonstration of how to do it, and of someone, a professional bodybuilder, doing the thing. You go, oh, that's what bicep curls was. Okay, got it. So now you have all the answers, and you don't have to have our app. We think it's nice. You don't have to have it. Just whatever kind of plan you have, that's your little map of the Caribbean Sea with the X's and the pirate ships, and you know exactly where to go. And it's you, your app, or your map of how to train your program, and everyone else, like in the Avengers movies, just floats away. There's no one else. There's not even any other machines. It's you and the bicep curl machine. And the hypertrophy app says, first set is 12 reps, add 50 pounds. I take the select try stack, I go to 50, and I'm nice and warmed up, and I do 12 reps. And that's as far as you have to think about it. Comparisons, what everyone else thinks, without a plan, oh boy, are you second guessing yourself. With a plan, you don't have to second guess anything. Most of those people don't have a plan. They're just in there on vibes. I feel like my delts are going to grow today if I do this. Like, thanks for that intellectual opinion.
You said there's 2 types of effective training. One of them's can't say this, but one of them's hypertrophy,
Very good.
and the other one is periodization.
So periodization is the scientifically based organization of any kind of training that you want.
Okay.
Hypertrophy training is a type of training. It's just muscle growth training. It's like a fancy Dragon Science word for just getting more jacked, putting on muscle. That's the technical definition of hypertrophy. And when you train for hypertrophy, you can do it kind of like by feel and more or less at random, and you have pretty good results in most cases. But to get your best results, you want that training to be periodized. Periodization is the scientific approach to how to organize your training to get sort of roughly three things. Some of these are a bit more for athletes and not regular people. Get the best results that you can, peak at an appropriate time, abs for summer, and minimize injury risk. And taking all the science that we know, that plan that you've made because you did it in an evidence-based fashion, that is now what is considered a periodized plan. So that's how those two concepts relate to each other.
What do I need to know about hypertrophy in order to be able to achieve it? Is there anything really foundational? Because I think everyone wants a bit of muscle growth. I think I spend too long in the gym. I think I could be much more efficient when I'm training. What would you recommend that I start thinking about as foundational principles when it comes to hypertrophy muscle growth?
One is specificity. It's the most important principle in all of sport training and exercise science. Is what am I here for? What do I want? Because you can do a bunch of exercises in the gym, and you're like, that was great. And someone's like, are you getting the results you like? And like, what I want is a bigger bicep. Like, how many bicep exercises do you do? Like, I think upright rows, maybe.
So I want a bigger bicep. If we just focus on getting Stephen Butler a bigger left bicep.
So specificity is telling yourself, okay, I want bigger biceps and whatever X, Y, Z other muscle. Then we move in to the principle of overload, which means you have to challenge yourself. If most of your sets, someone else watching them can't tell if you're warming up or doing what's called a working set, like a real set, you have a problem. So towards the end of all of your sets, either the weights are slowing down, or even if it's the same speed, to you they feel perceptively harder. You know, you do this, and in a couple reps you're like, "Urgh." That's what you want. Every real working set should be challenging. You should be approaching every real set with just a teeny dose of trepidation. Like, oh boy, here we go. I'm gonna have to try. Once you have that,
And a set is a group of repetitions.
correct.
So if I do 10 repetitions, that's one set.
One set,
Okay.
yeah. And so your sets have to be sufficiently heavy. Anything between roughly 5 reps per set and 30 reps per set, where the last few reps are getting close to you not being able to use good technique and lift the weights, check plus.
So there's not a perfect amount of repetitions to do.
There is, it's a trade secret. I'd have to say it off camera to you. Like the NDA to sign.
Okay, we're off camera.
All right, great. So it's 17. There's just tons of contextual nuance kind of stuff. Some people, some of their muscles will seem to respond better to sets of 5 to 10. Other folks, even the same person can have muscles in their body that really respond better to sets of 20 to 30, and everything between them. Generally, you get in the exercise science data, you'll have a group of people training for sets of roughly 5 reps, and another group training for sets of roughly 30 reps, and their change in muscle growth over 8, 12, 16 weeks is statistically undifferentiable, which means if I delabel the groups, you don't know which one's which. You can't actually tell me who trained with higher reps or low reps. For muscle growth, it's roughly the same.
That's so crazy. We're using the same weight.
No, different weights, yeah.
Different weights.
A weight that is challenging for 5 reps is much heavier than a weight that is challenging for 30.
Okay, so I do wonder this all the time when I go to the gym. I wonder if I should be doing, I don't know, 30 reps of 10 kg on my bicep, or I should be doing 10 reps of 20 kg.
They're both right answers, no wrong answers there.
And they both have the same chance of growing my muscles, as long as the strain that I experience subjectively is difficult at the end of those sets.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Which is really good news, because that's like another thing you don't have to worry about.
Which means at home I can get any range of weights versus having to get really, really big ones to grow my
As
muscles.
long as they're not so tiny that you're on rep number 45 and you're like, I could just do this for forever. Or they're not so enormous that you're like, I can't really even do 2 reps of this. Anything between roughly 5 and roughly 30 reps, challenging, is really, really good.
How many sets and how often do I have to visit a gym to get this bicep to grow?
That answer depends on how much you've been doing before.
Okay.
But if you're new to the gym, 2 sessions a week with 2 to 3 sets per session for your biceps is something that's going to cause months and months and months of consistent progress.
Really?
Can you do more? Yes. Do you have to do as a beginner? No. Eventually, as a more advanced person, do you need to do more sets and perhaps more sessions to get consistently better results? Yes. But for beginners who haven't been to the gym very much or at all, the minimal effective dose is profoundly small, which is why I can say things like, if you work out for 20 minutes twice a week, you're going to get great gains.
What if I go to the gym and I do 6 sets on my biceps and I just go to the gym once a week? Does the distance between the workouts in a muscle group have an impact?
Yes. Once a week training gives you good results, but twice a week training for the same muscle gives you notably better results. Training 3 times a week versus twice, training 4 times a week versus 3 times, training 5 times a week versus 4 times is an exponentially de-escalating amount of impressive differences. So 1 time a week works, it'll get you results. 2 times a week gets you like 1.5 times the results, like way better. 3 times a week is like another little bit more results, still notable. 4 times a week is you gotta be training for a while to notice the difference between 3 and 4. 4 and 5 is contextual and nuanced, and I can't actually tell you that categorically 5 days a week is better than 4. There are some things I would have to know about your plan and everything else to make that conclusion.
So really only doing it twice a week per muscle group.
Twice is our minimum. 2 to 4 times a week is what I say is kind of the best overall recommendation per muscle group. And if you train all of your muscles together at the same time, a whole body workout, which most people in the realm of just I'm busy and I can't train a lot, it would be all of the major muscles of your body in the same session, twice or 3 times or 4 times a week. And that is an awesome beginner fitness plan.
What's going on in my muscles that's encouraging them and making them grow? And when are they growing? Is it when I go to bed at night? Is it when do they grow the minute that I curl the dumbbell? What's actually going on? Because sometimes understanding what's actually going on inside helps me to think through and change my behavior.
Yeah, so the primary stimulus for muscle growth is there are molecular machines in your muscles, in your muscle cells, and they are designed to detect the presence of tension. And when your muscles generate tension, the molecular detector machines go, ooh, we got tension here. And they start saying to other parts of the cells, like, hey, let's get this muscle growth thing started. Started, not happening, started. It's a stimulus of muscle growth. There are a couple of other mechanisms which might / probably have an effect. And that a couple of them are metabolite sequestration, which is a very fancy way of saying the burn. You know, at the end of a cycle, like, the metabolites, the byproducts of training, if they accumulate to high levels, it's been shown in tons of animal studies and a few human studies that, like, mechanistically, they might also tell the molecular machinery that grows muscle for you again later to get the muscle growth process. Another one is the pump. So, you know, you do a couple sets of biceps, you're like, oh my God, what's going on here, baby? Flash it at some girl, she runs away as usual. And the actual cell swelling itself might play a causal mechanistic role in generating more muscle growth. But we know it's probably at least 80% of the muscle growth anyone will see is because of those receptors for tension. Muscle growth, as soon as you leave the gym, is a negative because the gym is catabolic. It breaks down your muscle. Actually training breaks down more muscle than it builds. However, as you go home and you start eating food, protein, carbs, fats, and you have several meals per day, and you're resting, when the food's coming in, several hours after training begins, if you measure muscle growth consistently, which is real difficult to do, they don't do it super often. You have to keep people in a laboratory, you have to do radioactive tracers and measure all this weird stuff. Every couple of hours they measure, the amount of muscle growth that's going on to the biceps goes up and up and up and up, and it usually peaks about half a day to a day and a half after you lift, depending on how hard you went. If it's a pretty easy workout, it peaks a little sooner and drops off about a day or two later. If you train really crazy hard, it'll peak like a day and a half later, and then half a week later it'll drop off back to baseline levels. But if this really smooth curve and you're growing muscle at every single point under that curve, so when you say, is it while I'm sleeping, is it while I'm eating, is it while I'm resting, the answer is all of those, except it's not at the gym. You don't grow muscle at the gym. You give yourself a signal to grow muscle at the gym. And then what you do outside of the gym matters. So some people train really hard, They don't eat right. They don't eat enough protein. Their sleep is total, insert bad word here, and their stress levels are just totally psychotic. They train hard, and then week after week after week, they're like, not seeing any results. Well, the results are actually created when you're resting, when you're sleeping, when you're eating nutritious food. They're stimulated in the workout, but it's just phase one. Phase two, the actual growth occurs outside the gym, and it occurs not at any specific time point, that magic window of 2 hours after the gym, like that's when all the growth occurs. That's how it just starts to go up. It's 4 days afterwards. If you train twice a week, you train on Monday, you're going a lot of muscle Monday night, Tuesday and Wednesday. Back towards the end of Wednesday, you're just not really going much more muscle. You go back to the gym Thursday, you hit it hard again, you hit that curve up. By Sunday, you're totally relaxed. During Sunday, you're not growing any muscle. Your body's really recovering a lot of that fatigue. And then by Monday, you're fresh as a pickle and you're ready to go at it again.
How long will it take me to lose the muscles that I've gained if I don't go back to the gym? So again, focusing on this bicep. I train it, I do 2 times a week, I get it nice and big. How long before it vanishes?
Great question. 2-part answer. Part one is within about 2 weeks of not training it, the first reduction in muscle that is detectable by modern machinery occurs. So if you don't lift for 2 weeks and we put you in an MRI scanner or a DEXA scanner, let's say a week and a half you don't lift, I can't tell. You're not really losing any muscle yet. You're just going insane. And so me personally, I'm like addicted to lifting. So if I don't lift for a week, I'm like, oh my God, all the muscle's gone. There is some kind of intuitive truth to that, because when you don't stress your muscles, when you do stress your muscles, they get a little bit inflamed and they bulge up a little bit. So when you're not training for half a week to a week, your muscles look smaller, like they've lost weight, but it's really just all water that they lost. You do one gym session thinking like, oh my God, my biceps are gone. A week and a half later, you do one session, at the end of that you flex, and you're like, oh my God, I'm the biggest I've ever been. I was just delusional that whole time, because that stuff comes back super quick. After about 2 weeks of not lifting, you start to lose muscle, but it happens really, really slowly. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. After several months of not lifting, you're going to look considerably smaller in your biceps, but probably not as small as when you start lifting, because your muscles have a certain memory, if we can call it that.
Is that true?
Very true. Oh yeah. And so a lot of times when you gain an initial amount of muscle, especially if you've been at it for years, it just never goes back to the same size as when you started. It's just always going to be bigger until you reach your 80s or something like that. That being said, yes, you will notice reductions in size. So 2 weeks is the direct answer there. And it's going to take weeks and weeks and months to recede. However, here's part two. And this is awesome news. Because of that muscle memory situation, however long it took you to gain the muscles initially, it's going to take you an order of magnitude, a factor of 10-ish or so less time to get it back. If you've been more jacked before, if you've had bigger muscles, they come back to their old size. If you lifted for 8 months, you got a bigger bicep, and you stop lifting for 3 months, it looks about the same as when you started. If you're really careful, it gets a little bit bigger, but really it's just back to square one. Most people think, oh my God, another 8 months just to get back to where I started? Like, forget the gym. The truth is, after roughly about a month, maybe as little as 3 weeks, you're going to have the same size biceps that you did in your peak. Because the degree to which your tissue grows, if it's been a certain size before, especially if it was notably bigger than normal, and you held that around for a few months and a few years, it comes back in a way that's so fast. If you experience it yourself, it's like you don't believe that it's happening to you. You
Have you been able to like scientifically test this?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, retraining studies, detraining, retraining. Oh yeah, they've done studies where they purposefully like lift for a while and they stop lifting for a long time and they see how long it takes to get back. And there's one study I'm familiar with offhand that there's a group of people that trained consistently for multiple weeks, and there's another group of people that trained consistently for a few weeks and then took 2 weeks completely off in the middle and then just started retraining again for a few weeks later. Both groups had identically sized differences in muscle at the end of the study. And so we're like, okay, so that group that trained consistently never took 2 weeks off. Could we say that they purposefully like dunked 2 weeks of their time away for nothing? Yeah, your body goes right back into regaining old lost muscle so rapidly that this is such great news because look, let's say you lifted consistently most of the year. Holiday season comes up, winter holidays. You're not going to the gym as much, maybe not at all. 3 weeks later of no gym, you look at yourself, you look a little smaller, kind of deflated, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to restart all this from scratch. Nope. 2 weeks later, you're in the best shape of your life again. If you left the gym for 6 months, 1 or 2 months later, you're in the best shape of your life again. That's how rapidly it comes back. So it's really good news for anyone who hasn't been in the gym and feeling guilty about it. Go back, get consistent again. You're just going to skyrocket.
And it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Because we always have, sometimes it's the trough, the couple of weeks off that makes us demotivated. Because that's crossed my mind before. Oh my God, that took me 3 months to get there, and it's going to take me another 3 months to get back. But what about, so if I'm training that bicep, how have I got to think about stretching and warming up before I get going in my training?
There are many ways to do it, but there's some research on this recently, actually. You don't need much. One of the simplest ways to warm up that we recommend in RP, and our app has it in the instructions. Let's say you have your final weight already picked out. Like last week you did 20-pound dumbbells for sets of 15. This week it's sets of 16 with the 20-pound dumbbells. What you want to do is you want to do very lightweight, maybe the 5-pound dumbbells for a set of 12. Just to get everything moving, good technique, same technique you're going to use. 30 seconds of rest, a minute of rest. You pick up the 10 or 15-pound dumbbells. You do a set of 8 reps. It's a little bit more challenging. You're feeling your groove a little bit, but your body's already more warm, your nervous system's more active, your muscles are more pliable. Rest a minute after that, and then you'll pick up the weight you're actually using, the 20-pounders, and you'll do a set of 2 to 4 reps with them, just to get the feel of that heavy weight you're going to be doing, to acclimatize not just your muscles and your nervous system, but your psychology to like, okay, this is the business weight that I'm going to be using. So 12, 8, 4. Rest another 30 seconds. First working set of whatever, 16 reps. You're up. When you have multiple exercises for the same muscle group, you just need to do one set of like 4 to 8 reps in that middle weight range between 0 and whatever you're going to do, just to get the feel of the exercise, because you're already generally warm in that area. One little warm-up set, rest 30 seconds to a minute, and then hit your first set. If you're switching which muscles you're using, like you were training chest, but then in the same session you started training back, that first back exercise, 12, 8, 4, the weight goes up, 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 the reps go down, 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 just a little bit of time between, and then you hit your first work set and you're good to go. You don't have to do cardio before, you don't have to get on the treadmill, you can get light in it. You don't have to do some kind of cardio warm-up. You don't have to do any kind of stretching or anything like that. You don't have to do any kind of weird Bosu ball band around your neck, crazy potentiation exercises. Just that little ramp-up is basically in 98% of all cases exactly the only way you need to do.
What is a warm-up? What is going on physiologically inside my muscle? Because we all just warm up, and I don't think anybody actually knows what's going on.
Yeah. So your muscle tissues, they have physical qualities that can be measured almost in like a fluid dynamics terms, like viscosity and hysteresis and all that stuff. And so when you're very cold, a lot of times there's kind of a frailty implied there. As you're warming up, you're sending blood to around the muscle. The muscle itself is literally becoming warmer. And a lot of those kind of tight structures that are the proteins that are made of kind of stretchy material, they loosen up a little bit. And that allows you to go through that full range of motion in training and not actually get hurt. And that's from the muscle perspective. You also get some kind of chemical stuff that happens, and certain structures fill up with chemicals, certain structures, chemicals go down, and that gets you ready to perform super hard work. But that's part of the story. The other part is the nervous system, because your nervous system is also getting warmed up. And in technical terms, it's called potentiation. When you just show up to the gym and let's say we said, look, okay, we re-engineered your tendons when you were asleep. You're not going to get hurt. It's impossible for you to get hurt. Like a car would have to hit you for you to rip your bicep off. You can just go and just hit the curls right away. You wouldn't get hurt, but it would feel really strange, and you wouldn't get 4 or 5 reps close to where you're supposed to be from last week. Because your nervous system was like, what the hell is going on? I'm supposed to be doing something, so you need more of the nervous system. Part of that is literally like the actual nervous system itself, down to the cellular level, is flushing all kinds of metabolites through, the connections are getting stronger, you're sort of doing a little bit of kind of mini rewiring of primary motor cortex to say, look, oh, we're doing curls, this is how you execute this pattern. Another part is technical. Like, oh, this is the technique I'm going to do. Because if you just get in the muscle and just do stuff, like, imagine if I told you, like, hey, here's a ball, just like, go shoot some hoops, just hit that, 3-pointer shot. You're like, I need a couple shots to remind my body of what it's like to shoot the basketball. Same idea of lifting, you need to remind your body of what the curl motion is. And if you remind it a couple sets in a row, by the time you get that real working set, that 4th set, your body's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do, and which parts of the muscle I'm going to activate to contract, which other parts of other muscles I'm going to activate to relax and co-contract to make this whole thing happen.
What are the other sort of common mistakes people make when they go to the gym or they start training or they start exercising? So there I've kind of ticked off not stretching and taking on a heavy load too quickly, but also ramping up volumes and loads too fast. So that sort of overstrain before my body is ready for it. Are there any really other sort of common obvious mistakes people make that inhibit their progress?
One of them is failure to pay attention to good technique to grow. Because if you do a curl that arcs up, it does a lot of bicep. If you do a curl that arcs back this way, because the bicep is being pulled one way and pulled the other way, the shoulder and the elbow, it ends up doing more of a stabilizing contraction than actually being the prime mover for the movement. So when you see people curling at the gym and they're just kind of doing this, you're like, yes, that is training your biceps, but if you just moved a little bit differently, it would be so much better. Here's another example, squatting, right, for your legs. If you squat really far back and not so far down, like your glutes get hit, okay, your lower back and upper and mid back is going to get hit a lot, but because there's not a huge change in your knee angle, you're not getting a ton of quad stimulus. If you stay more upright and your heels and toes are on the ground and you allow your knees to go way forward beyond your toes as you stay upright and sink down really low so that your knee goes into one of these, oh my God, it's all quads all day long. So you want technique that is targeting the muscle. It's very similar rep to rep to rep, and it puts the muscle consistently through a range of motion that is in that deep, painful, length and stretch position. If you just have all those three, everything else we can say about your technique is just nuances and finer points. Those are really the big ones.
We talked about nutrition earlier as well. So if I want to make my bicep grow and also drop off the weight around the bicep so you can see it even more, what should I be putting into my mouth?
The number one requisite for muscle growth is protein. Foods with lots of protein in them ideally should be consumed 3 to 5 times per day at roughly equidistant intervals. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, totally fine. Even better, breakfast, lunch, dinner, evening snack. The average person needs a little bit less than, let's say, a gram per pound of body weight per day of protein. Actually, considerably less. That's kind of the top limit and a cool aspirational thing to shoot for. So if you weigh, let's say, 200 pounds, you should be consuming something like 150 to 200 grams of protein per day. And 150 for almost everyone's totally enough. But if you're real serious and hardcore and just want that insurance policy, 200 grams of protein per day. So if you're eating 4 times a day, that's, oh yeah, 30, 40, let's say 40 to 50 grams of protein per meal.
Can I eat too much protein and then it becomes fat or something?
So protein by itself, no. If your protein is so high that your carbs and fats are the same, and you jack up your protein super high, but your carbs and fats stay where they are, your calories become excessive, that will cause fat gain over time. But if you're doing a diet where you eat a ton of protein, but you dropped your carbs and fats and your calories are at maintenance levels, you're not going to gain any fat. It's not bad for your kidneys. It's not bad for any other part of your body. Excessive protein as a health malady has been a myth the entire time. And that's one of those notions that people carry with them, that too much protein is bad, right? Like, yes, if you've had kidney surgery, absolutely. Short of that, you're probably good to go. You'll fart a lot and people will hate you, but you know.
You mentioned 3 to 5 meals a day. A lot of people are now in this camp of fasting and intermittent fasting
Yeah.
and not eating often. Is it possible to fast but also to gain muscle mass in the way that you've described?
Yeah, totally. It just won't happen as an impressive rate. So you have to make a trade-off for yourself. If you want, you know, most jacked, Stephen, you can be 3 to 5 meals a day consistently spread, and almost to an individual. Competitive bodybuilders eat that frequently and eat high protein.
How often do you eat?
I eat it five times a day, 4 or 5 times a day usually.
And do you eat before or after you train?
Both.
Okay, so before you train and after you train.
Yeah,
Do you
but,
eat different things?
A lot of times I'll train early in the morning, and so I won't train it. I won't eat it all. I'll wake up, and I'll have like a protein and carb mix shake with my training. Totally optional, super extra credit. Me not doing anything at all, if you look at the literature, but I find it a little bit compelling to do a little bit of that. And then afterwards, I have my first post-workout meal, second meal, third meal, fourth meal, bedtime, wake up, do it again.
What do you take to get you going? Do you do pre-workout?
No,
Why?
no, I don't do any stimulants of any kind.
Why?
I just kind of coked up all the time naturally. So like if you give me stimulants, it's just gonna go into the not so pleasant side of side effects. Like I'm just gonna be like this and way too amped up, super high anxiety, and my thoughts get to be like I have less fluidity of thinking and stuff. So there's just a lot of me, I guess. And so when I wake up in the morning, I don't need anything to get me going. I just go, and a couple warm-up sets later, I have all the energy I need. That's not everyone. And so some green tea, some black coffee, or some pre-workout 30 minutes before the gym is great advice for a ton of people.
I feel like pre-workout can't be healthy if you're doing it 5, 6, 7 times a week, because some of that stuff is so unbelievably strong. Like I've had it before, I've got literally like heart palpitations when I've had a pre-workout, and you know, you talk about anxiety, that anxious feeling. It can't be healthy for people to be doing that frequently.
It seems to be quite fine. It seems to be quite fine. Now, at the extremes, and for some individuals, it's not ideal, but the upper limit of caffeine in milligrams per day, at which we can confidently say most people will experience the beginnings of maladies, is 1,000 milligrams. And a cup of coffee has, depending on which cup, 50 to 100. Now, some pre-workouts have 250 milligrams of caffeine. Some have 500. Last I checked, Ronnie Coleman's pre-workout has 550 mgs of caffeine per serving. Isn't that kind of a lot? If I took 550 mgs of caffeine, don't take me to the gym, just take me right to the hospital. Put me in the psychiatric ward. 36 hours later, I'll be okay. But for some people, they get so accustomed to high doses of caffeine that it's supposed not unhealthy for them to consume. And also, they feel quite fine. So I would say start with as little as you need to get you going. And if you need to titrate and work up from there, that's a good thing. The other thing I would say is, I would have a compelling case for pre-workout or stimulants. If I ask you, like, hey, how much energy do you typically have at the gym? I'm like, oh, that's super great. And they're like, should I take pre-workout? If you look like I wake up in the morning, some days I don't want to sleep, and I need something to get me going. Not every day, but sometimes I'll be like, hey, consider green tea, black coffee, some diet soda, or all the way up to pre-workout if you need it. But some people take it kind of as like a religious thing, as a habit, as a ritual, and it's like, dude, you're training your forearms and biceps for 20 minutes total at 9 p.m. You do not need 3 scoops of pre-workout for that. I don't even know where it's going at that point. So some people get a little crazy with the pre-workouts. At the end of the world, it's at best needless.
What's your stance on the whole idea of calories in, calories out? A lot of people just focus on that as their sort of their script to lose body weight, lose body fat, and gain muscle. Is that a useful frame to use? And why do so many people fail at it, if it is a useful frame?
Most people fail at it because they don't consider both the calories in and calories outside of the equation. And a lot of people fail because they're very bad at estimating food amounts and calories. Someone will say like a tablespoon of peanut butter. Stephen, have you ever actually seen a tablespoon measuring cup? It does not look like mom's tablespoon where she takes the peanut butter and goes, that's like 4 tablespoons. And so, but I'm eating the calories, blah, blah, blah. every time you take people into, which is a study center where you're not allowed to have visitors that bring you food. The workers only give you the food that you need, and all of your exercise and your output is controlled and monitored, and so is your intake. No one has ever violated the laws of thermodynamics. We give you a certain number of calories, and we expect you to lose a certain number of weight. There's a variance about that, but you're going to lose the weight that roughly we predict. If we account for all variables, you're going to lose almost exactly the weight that we predict. So calories in, calories out is incontrovertible. And among 90-something% of people who do research in this field that are effectively educated, calories in, calories is not controversial. It never has been. There are some people who say, well, calorie counting didn't work for me. That's probably because you did it wrong. Or you weren't even concerned about how much protein you're taking in or how many carbs, how many fats. There are other details that matter. Like if you say, I need a V8 engine in a car, that's all that matters. Like, okay, well, there's no steering wheel, there's no pedals. Cool? Well, okay, I need those things too. So calories in, calories out is the very core. Because without an engine, you're not going anywhere. But what types of foods you're eating matters a little bit. Are you getting enough protein, carbs, fats? That matters a bit too. So people like to just bash calorie balance and calories in, calories out as well. It's totally myth. It doesn't work. No, it works great. It's just not always enough to get you in the best shape you can. If you do it right, as far as net balance, weight gain, or weight loss, actually the only thing that matters. Tissue-wise, is that gain mostly muscle and mostly fat? Is the loss mostly muscle, mostly fat? That has not so much to do with calories. It has much more to do with proteins, carbs, fats, the quality of food you're eating, nutrient timing, and all the rest of it. So calories in, calories out is amazing, super explanatory, critical, but it's just not the whole picture.
And that's really it, I guess, because so many people say they've heard about calories in, calories out, but they fail at maintaining it. Now that's really about motivation and the psychology of doing such a thing. Some people have said to me that our bodies want to defend our weight. So if we start eating less, we'll become a little bit more hungry. If we go for a run, after the run or after physical exertion, our body will try and make up for it because it's programmed to try and defend its weight.
Or check the diet's over, and you're like, so now what do I do? Like, good luck.
Calories off menus because it's said to have eating disorders and things like that. Is that a conversation worth entertaining in this regard?
Sure. Very few people will develop eating disorders based on increases in information they are presented. I would actually call that eating order instead of eating disorder. Most people who get eating disorders are highly at risk genetically and with a few other social circumstances. Eating disorders are, for example, the most deleterious eating disorders, anorexia nervosa, seen not exclusively, but almost exclusively in females of reproductive age. Banning calories on a menu, doing that, that's something you bring into the table. Usually because you have the genetic proclivity for it, in addition because you've been in a social and cultural circumstance where not only were you the wrong person to get ridiculed for your weight, but also a lot of people ridiculed you for your weight. And then you go all careening off on this path where no one can even tell you're super skinny anymore because you don't believe it. So the idea that you can see a much higher prevalence globally in eating disorders for putting menu calorie labels on things is true by this much at the margin. And it's just largely not the case.
Adjacent to that is this idea of muscle dysmorphia, which affects a lot of people, but specifically men. Roughly 87% of men that are between 15 to 32 years old that experience muscle dysmorphia, which is what?
So muscle dysmorphia generally is, for whatever level of jacked that you think you are considerably less jacked, both in reference to yourself and your own desires, and in reference to an ethereal make-believe comparator population in your head. So if you were to ask me like, hey Mike, do you feel jacked? And I'm like, nope. You're like, ooh, not good, not a good sign. Clearly he's jacked. And then you can ask me, like, compared to other 40-year-old Ashkenazi Jewish men, how jacked are you? And if I'm like, I'm probably like bottom 50% for sure. Bottom 25, you'd be like, okay, he's mentally ill, take him away. That is high-level muscle dysmorphia, a disassociation from any of objective reality about how much muscle you actually have.
Do people overestimate or underestimate their appearance as it relates to their muscles?
Dysmorphia is almost always cataloged as an underestimation.
But from your experience working with people, do people think they're more jacked than they actually are?
It really depends on the individual. Most people that are in gym culture, that are very invested, if you catch them on their not so great days, they think they're substantially less jacked than they really are. And if you tease it apart by a conversation, they'll end up being like, yeah, no, I know I'm jacked, but I'm just saying, like, and then it's aspirational. Like, for my goals, I'm not as jacked as I would like to be.
It's interesting because we typically think of women, I think stereotypically in society, as caring more about their body image. But I've read a lot of stats lately that suggest men care equally about their body image, but just in slightly different ways, and about the correlation between their perception of their body image and their own mental health, and the link between the two.
Sure.
Do you see this involved in male body image?
Yes, huge proportion of psychological proclivities are genetic. The others are very individually acquired. They change through time. It's not as easy as saying upbringing or family environment. So the one consistent thing about how you relate to the world and your own thoughts is genetics. And a lot of the traits tend to aggregate together. So it is true to say, on a spectrum, very nuanced, that some people aggregate a lot of negative psychological traits, and some people aggregate a lot of positive, and they're absolutely people, everyone's a mixed bag somewhere in between, but there's a little bit of this kind of, I don't want to use a term for another mental illness, a bipolarity to the distribution, right? And so a lot of people that are generally neurotic, they feel consistently unsafe and unsure of themselves, are going to be also the type of people that when they get more jacked through lifting, they're still not going to believe that they're as jacked and accomplished and awesome and alpha male as they really are, because they're always like, you know, to use the old Jewish joke stereotype, like, hey, I'm never going to be big. And it's like, you're already big. Like, oh, I don't know, it could get worse tomorrow. And a lot of people just bring that to the table. And so when you get neurotic people jacked, they don't think of that jacked. They're always like, oh my God, it's always going to end. But if you take non-neurotic people, make them jacked, then you 1 week of lifting into those people, and I'm like, dude, I should turn pro in bodybuilding. I'm like, get out of here. You're just overconfident. So it really depends on who's doing the thing. Now, cultural stuff, social, who's in your circle. I'll give you a good example. I have a lot of my closest friends have no relation to fitness whatsoever. A bunch of them are actually neuroscientists, just randomly people I knew in college that ended up being my friends for life. And so when they assess their muscularity relative to myself and my bodybuilder friends, they're like, I'm in terrible shape and I'm not remotely jacked. And they have such a weird comparator population that I always remind them, like, dude, not everyone looks like this. They go to the store, they go to school, they go to the bank, and they're like, oh crap, right. I'm actually the most jacked person at the bank. It's just not like Gold's Gym where everyone's enormous. So if you happen to be in an environment, let's say you're a university student and you go to the university gym and there's lots of jacked people there and you're there all the time trying to do your best, you may, if you're neurotic to begin with, more neurotic, start to develop a sense that you're just not nearly as jacked as you should be or could be or whatever. But if you like hang out at an old people home with your grandma and grandpa all the time, you're gonna feel like Superman all the time because holy shit, you're like, you can do real things and move furniture around.
And so then go back to the point about weight loss. If I'm trying to lose weight, what are the biggest myths around weight loss that hold people back in the commitment?
One is you have to be perfect. If I'm on my diet, I'm good. If I'm off my diet, not only am I bad, but as soon as I'm off my diet, I have sinned, and there is no solace for me. A lot of people have that falling off the bandwagon thing where they'll eat clean food, whatever that means, diet food, for weeks and weeks and weeks. They have one kebab, they have one cheeseburger, and they're like, doc it. That's it, man. I'm done dieting. I'm not a good person anymore. It's like that whole dichotomizing and kind of a religious approach, that hurts a lot of people. Because in reality, if you just eat a cheeseburger, your body's like, oh, sweet, like I got a little bit more carbohydrates stored in the muscle, I recovered a little bit more, my diet fatigue is actually a little lower because you fed me some food. Tomorrow, I'm back on the diet. I'm making even better gains than if I didn't have that cheeseburger because I was so exhausted. And so a lot of people have that approach completely backwards, and they're like, I'm either good or I'm bad. And that's really tough. Another one is people think that the approach to lose weight is the same as the approach to maintain it. This is really, really, really nasty because so my wife is a board certified family med sports med doctor, and she does a lot of work, international Olympic teams, all that stuff. And she is looking at these formal recommendations from the medical literature. And it's like, here's the kind of diet you need to lose weight. And then she was like, she followed up with some of the professionals. She's like, and so what about maintenance? And they're like, yep. What do you mean, yep? What are you talking about? That's not the conversation. So people think, okay, I'm going to clean up my diet. No more ice cream, no more crisps, no more Cheetos. I'm going to eat super healthy. And then when I get to the weight that I want, I eat continuously super healthy. I never have ice cream again. What kind of bizarre world is it? And so they'll flop back to the other one. Well, they'll try for a few months after they've gotten to the weight they like to just eat completely super healthy, clean, everything like that. They lose a little bit more weight. They're exhausted. They're tired. Their food focus is driving them nuts. They'll eat some ice cream and they'll go, I'm a sinner. And then ice cream, cheeseburgers, up they go. And then they regain all the weight. So a huge myth is the fact that, yeah, when you're losing weight, you got to pay a little bit more attention to what you eat. But once you've gotten to that weight, you both need some time. Roughly every 3 months that you diet hard to lose weight, you should be taking about at least 2 months at maintenance, just maintaining it. So if you weighed 100 kilos, now you're down to 90. After 3 months, for about 2 or 3 months, just stay at 90. Eat mostly the healthy stuff that you work with, throw in a little junk in there. Maintenance, again, is much easier than losing. When physiologically and psychologically, your diet fatigue comes down after those 2 or 3 months, you're able, if you'd like, to start dieting really hard again to get to that next goal that you have, or just live in balance for the rest. But if we tell you, like, here's your diet to make you lean and healthy, and you're like, okay, how long do I have to do this? And the doctor's like, forever? What am I supposed to do? I'm never allowed to have tiramisu after dinner ever again. And they're like, oh, try not to. That's terrible advice. And not only do medical people too often say that, most people have that in their heads, and it's a very, very untenable situation.
One of the big Swiss narratives that I was exposed to for most of my life about weight loss is that 80% of it's diet. What do you think about those ratios? How much of weight loss is determined by diet versus exercise?
You know, diet has a bigger effect than exercise. As a heuristic, I'm very comfortable with 80-20. There are a couple reasons for that. One is there's the constrained energy hypothesis. It's also called Pontzer's paradox, based on Hermann Pontzer's work in physical anthropology. And so basically they realized that the amount of physical activity that humans can do has a range. But if you try to get people to like double their physical activity, you say, look, I'm not going to change my diet. I'm going to work out twice as much as the next guy. Your body becomes so fatigued so rapidly, and your metabolism adjusts itself. Your physical activity that's not planned exercise, like how much do you get up when someone calls you? Are you still on the couch talking to them? Or how much do you get up and walk around your kitchen a bunch? Your body makes all these adjustments. So if you try to really outwork a bad diet, it doesn't work. And usually you just come back to the same physical activity because you're too exhausted to continue, and then you fail. Whereas with diet, you can make some dietary changes, principle-based, like stop eating junk food every day and just eat 2 pieces of junk food on Friday and 2 pieces of junk food on Saturday. Just that alone is sustainable. Your body, as long as these are filling foods, a lot of veggies, fruits, whole grains, lean meats, you're not hungry. You're just like, damn it, I want a bag of chips. That's not a reason. That is mostly psychological, it's not physiological, and thus dieting is just able to take bigger chunks out of your calorie balance equation without completely destroying it. That has limits as well. You can't diet forever, so you have to take it in chunks. Another thing is this: in order to burn a lot of calories, to lose a lot of weight, you gotta do some serious work. The average person will burn something like 100 to 150 calories per mile run. Oh my God, you start thinking about it, like a donut has 300 calories. How fast, Stephen, can you eat a donut if I time you?
5 seconds.
No problem. Boop. You gonna run 3 miles after you eat each donut? It's insane. So taking your diet, cleaning it up, reducing the junk, reducing the calories is not that hard. But if you try to fight off the nasty extra junk food calories you're taking in with exercise, it's kind of like a 3-to-1 fight. You eat 2 donuts at your work function after work, you got 6 miles to run that day. Nobody doing that. And that's why diet is such a huge factor. It's so easy to do quote unquote damage with it. And it's much easier to take control of it versus with exercise. The boundary layers are just smaller, and what you would have to do to fight the bad diet is just grotesquely large outside of the boundary layers.
I think it's a lot because I think people typically assume that the way to lose weight is to go do a run.
Yeah.
That's typically, you'll see people in the gym, and if you ask someone why they're on the running machine, they'll probably say, I'm trying to lose some weight.
Yeah. It helps a little bit. But if you run and you burn 200 calories extra per day, 3 days per week, that is 600 extra calories you're burning through the week. That's good stuff. You can lose some decent weight like that.
Aren't you just going to be more hungry, though, afterwards?
Typically, exercise does not dependably increase your hunger in most people. So, depending on the context of the individual, it's not a dependable thing to say that doing more exercise necessarily makes you more hungry, which is kind of cool because usually you're not really any more hungry. And if you stick consistently exercise, but you control your diet, you're good to go. However,
is there a psychological component to that where because I've done the run, I now feel like I deserve it?
oh yeah, that's huge. And some people do have a hunger response, but what you put in your body after that could be really healthy stuff that doesn't have a ton of calories, is really filling, or it can be like, we're done running, pizza and beer, and then that's really bad news. But real quick, so let's say you're burning 600 calories extra per week by running 2 miles at a time or whatever, you run an extra 4 miles per week, right? 600 calories per week, what is that? Well, to burn a pound of body fat, you need to get 3,500 calories per week out of your diet, or do 3,500 extra calories of activity per week. 600's a drop in the bucket to that. You'll never notice. I mean, yeah, after a year, you'll lose like 2 or 3 pounds or 5 pounds or whatever. Nobody thinks in terms like that. But if they were to simply alter their diet and to keep training, to keep the calorie burn at a moderate to high level, but take food out of their diet, especially through junk food, the total calorie sink deficit they can make for themselves is now in the hundreds of calories per day. Now you're losing a pound of fat every week. Now you're having big results.
Is there any preference between doing cardio or strength as it relates to long-term weight loss? Because I'm thinking if I've got more muscles, then surely my body's going to need more, it's going to burn more calories.
Just by a small margin.
Oh, really?
Almost unnoticeable. Yeah.
So your body versus my body, you're not burning more calories.
How much do you weigh?
90, I don't even know in pounds, it's about 92 kilograms.
Okay, solid. So I currently weigh about 98 kilograms.
202 pounds.
So 202. So I weigh like 216 to 220 right now.
So we were not too far off.
Not too far off. So even though I have considerably more muscle,
in your opinion,
am I very biased? No dysmorphia here. I would be burning a teeny bit more fat or more calories per day because of my higher muscle mass, but it's mostly my absolutely higher weight. So for example, the people in the world that burn the most calories and need the most calories to sustain their body weight are the fattest people in the world. That like lady that weighs 800, 900, 1,000 pounds, like just to keep her the same size, it's 15,000 calories a day. And if it was all muscle and no fat, somehow she was 1,000 pounds of muscle, which would be sweet to look at. She would be burning like maybe 16,000 calories per day instead of 15. And probably even that's an exaggeration. Muscle mass doesn't help you burn tons of calories. That's not what it's there for. It is incredibly good for your health. It is incredibly good for how you look. Those things by itself make muscle mass an awesome thing to do. But it is neither true to say that cardio reliably over the long term burns lots of weight off. And it is not true to say that gaining lots of muscle burns lots of weight off. What is really, really critical is, do you have a well-controlled, nutritious diet? And do you have an average, moderate to high level of daily physical activity? Dancing and swimming and running and having fun and chasing your kids. If you're on the higher end of activity, not psychotically high to where you get super tired, just not being a total slouch, and making sure you're aware of your body and your diet, that's what really pays these massive dividends in long-term weight control. It's not like, well, if I put on a ton of muscle, that's great for everything else. It makes you super healthy. It makes you look really awesome. It gives you the ability to, like, I don't know, like do real world stuff, defend yourself, things like that. That's what muscle is there for. It's not the greatest, like, calorie sink in the world. I wish it was. I'd be cheeseburger right now.
So in terms of supplements, are there any supplements you suggest that I take if my goal is to lose weight, but also to gain muscle mass for the average person?
No.
There's no supplements.
I mean,
Creatine?
creatine will not help with weight loss, and for most people, it'll temporarily gain you about 2 kilos of body weight because it attracts body water into the muscle. It's a cool look because I'm on creatine right now. Can you so creatine doesn't help you lose weight in any meaningful extent. So I'm aware of no over-the-counter supplements that simultaneously help you burn fat and gain muscle. There are supplements that are not over-the-counter that do that quite well. But
What if I'm just trying to gain muscle then? What supplements would you recommend the average person to be taking? Really regardless of, I guess, goals. If their goal is to be a little bit more lean with their muscle mass, if their goal is to build muscle, is it different types of supplements you'd suggest, or?
creatine works to build muscle. It's got awesome cognitive benefits. It's just healthy for you and it's great. So 5 grams per day for most people of creatine monohydrate, super awesome.
Have you got to load creatine? I remember
I used to load creatine. That's basically like a corporate scam that's just trying to get you to consume more creatine so you buy more. Yeah. If you load your creatine, which is like taking 20 grams per day for a few days, you get to intramuscular creatine stores that are optimal, like in 4 or 5 days. If you don't load creatine, you get there in like 7 to 10 days. And because you're taking creatine either for months or for life, it's just a moot point. So creatine loading is a gigantic waste of time in almost every case.
Okay.
So creatine works. Whey protein, casein protein can be an excellent way to conveniently get protein. So they're more like foods rather than supplements. Those are totally cool, but not mandatory. If you talk to me like you are now for just several hours at a time, let's say we're sitting on a plane together, and you're like, I'm just a guy who's trying to get like a little bit more of this, a little bit of that. What supplements do I need to take is the wrong time to ask that. The time to ask that is like, I want to take a run at a natural bodybuilding show. What supplements do I need? Okay, then they pay some dividends that are worth noting. But supplements are just not in the conversation for important things that health conscious people should have, even in their top 10 of important things they need to do. The top 10 important things are like getting adequate sleep, managing your stress really well, consistently lifting weights, consistently doing a high level of physical activity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the big rocks, not supplements. Supplements are insanely overrated as a general rule.
This next challenge is offered in partnership with Whoop. Does the idea of waking up with more energy, a clearer mind, and a feeling of control appeal to you? If it does, I want you to join me this sober October. I stopped drinking a while ago now, and it was largely because of Whoop. Time and time again, I watched my heart rate variability drop to like 40 after having a drink, even 1 or 2 glasses of wine, when it would otherwise sit nearer to 150. The only other times it would drop this low was when I was sick or when I was stressed. Information enables us to make more informed choices, and seeing this led me to make a change in my life. So if you're a member of Whoop, look out for Whoop's Sober October Challenge in the app. And if you haven't joined yet, head over to join.whoop.com/CEO to start your free trial. That's join.whoop.com/CEO, and get ready for your life to change. What about steroids?
They're great. What? My website?
What are steroids? And you said you take steroids. Do you take steroids all the time? And what is the impact? So say if you weren't taking steroids, how different would you look?
I know this because I was another.
Bro, how's Thailand? Have fun in Thailand. What you doing, my bro? How you doing? How's the vacation? Hold on, I'll be back. Ooh, uh, you should go. You guys should go to the one that you guys fight. Like you get in the room with people. You should do that for sure. Alive and free, cool breeze. It's a good one. So far you having fun? You ready? Falling asleep. Pecan pie. I like pumpkin pie. Let me see that.
If you're not gonna talk to him, I don't want it.
So what?
If you're going to sleep, I don't want it on me.
You drive trucks? What you mean you're trying? You don't got your license? Oh, so you have a blown head gasket? Yeah, that sucks. You know how to fix it? You're gonna take it to a mechanic. So you're good, you're right in the middle. Some people are either cursed or blessed. Uh, I'll be back in a minute, T-Bird. Just take a nap.